Hello friends, and welcome back to my last episode for my 2025 reading journal. I can't believe that 2025 is over already, along with this series. It has been an incredible journey, and I'm so glad you decided to stop by and watch with me through the months. Let's get started by turning to my reading goals page. I'm not sure how I did it, but I managed to meet all of my reading goals for the year, even the stretch goals along the way. It feels like a huge accomplishment to have met all of these, and I can't wait to see what 2026 brings. Up next is the visual bookshelf. Let's go over the final books I read in 2025. Last month, I noted that there were only 8 spots left on the bookshelf, and although I read a lot over December, I managed to get through 7 total books, leaving one lone book untouched on the shelf. Despite this, I'm still very happy with the amount and the types of books that I read this year. So let's now go over what I read in December. The titles I read this month were Blue Christmas, When Darkness Falls, The Bridge, Bridge to Terabithia, The Holiday Cottage, Old Yeller, and Alchemized. Much like in October, I tried to read some holiday-themed books this month to get into the Christmas spirit. I had planned on reading 1 or 2 more, but that plan kind of got derailed when Alchemized became available for me to borrow from my local library almost a month before I was expecting it. Despite that, it was a welcome surprise that really added an interesting injection of dark fantasy into the mix of cozy holiday reads and heart-wrenching classics that I had going on at the time. Next, let's turn the page over to my series tracker and add in this month's info. I've only got one contribution to the series tracker this month, and it's to gray in the last dot in the Obsidian Mountain trilogy, which I finished earlier this month. Looking back on the year, I've finished 8 separate series. That's not too shabby. Up next is the 2025 book log. Let's go over all the books I just mentioned and add their info to the spread. The first book I read in December was Blue Christmas by Mary Kay Andrews. I picked this book up from a free little library in my area when I was looking for holiday-themed novels, and I thought it sounded like a fun little read. This novel follows an antique dealer who is trying very hard to win the holiday decorating contest at her shop, but she keeps having strange setbacks, like decorations going missing, a burglary, and even a break-in. Despite all of this, Wheezy is in it to win it, and she won't let anything stop her. I thought this book was just okay, and it read very much like a typical Hallmark movie. If that's your cup of tea, I'm sure you'll love it. For me, it was just a 2.5 out of 5. Next, I read the final installment of the Obsidian Mountain trilogy, When Darkness Falls, by Mercedes Lackey and James Mallory. After defeating the demons on several fronts, the Demon Queen now channels all of her cunning and power into trying to overtake Armathalia, the City of Light. Kellen, now a leader of his own troops, heads to defend the city that once banished him alongside the elves, centaurs, unicorns, and other wild mages. Soon, their magic and gifts will be put to the ultimate test. But who will win the great battle to come? The light or the dark? This was an excellent end to a fantastic series, and I rated it 5 out of 5 stars. Up next was The Bridge by Karen Kingsbury. This book told the story of several people whose lives are all intertwined thanks to a little bookshop called The Bridge. First and foremost, it is a holiday-centric story about lost and found love, but also of hope during some of your darkest moments. Unfortunately, I did not realize when I started this novel that it was a work of Christian fiction, so it kind of threw me off a little bit from the start. The story itself was a good one, and I did like it overall. I just felt personally that a lot of the added religious elements weren't necessarily needed to tell or add to the overall story. I gave this book a 3 out of 5 stars. Next, I read the classic Bridge to Terabithia by Katherine Paterson. I hadn't read this novel in many, many years, but I remembered it fondly and wanted to revisit it. This book tells the story of two unlikely best friends, Jess and Leslie, and the adventures that they have together as their friendship grows and blossoms in their made-up world of Terabithia. Then, one morning, Leslie goes to Terabithia without Jess, something they never do, and a great tragedy occurs. This book is a classic for a reason, and I didn't realize how hard it would hit me as an adult reading it. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 rating. The fifth book of December was The Holiday Cottage by Sarah Morgan. This was another holiday-themed novel, but it had an interesting mystery thriller aspect as well. In this book, we meet Imogen, a workaholic that can't sit still. Her whole life is work, and she can't see that she's on the way to burnout until she makes a huge blunder that almost costs her her job. Forced by her boss to take a month-long holiday over Christmas, Dorothy, a longtime client of Imogen's, offers to let her stay in her cottage. But there's a catch that Imogen doesn't see coming that will change everything. I really loved this book, as I didn't expect the mystery element when I began reading it. I rated this 4.5 out of 5. Next, I read another classic, Old Yeller by Fred Gibson. This was another book that I read as a child, and I'm sure I've watched the movie as well, that I wanted to revisit. My husband jokingly warned me that I was in for a rough time, as he recalled exactly what happened in the book, while I only had vague rememberings. But despite his warning, I was totally unprepared for the feels that this tiny novel would make me feel. To put it succinctly, this is the moving story of a boy and his dog during the frontier days in the Texas hillside. If you're an animal lover like myself, this story can and absolutely will break you. I gave this a solid 5 out of 5 stars. Lastly, I read Alchemized by Sen-Lin Yu. This dark fantasy novel follows a woman named Helena, a member of the Resistance with missing memories who is fighting to survive in a war-torn world of necromancy and alchemy. Handed over as a prisoner to the High Reeve, the next in line to hold the power over Palladia, she must learn to navigate this new world without her friends, powers, or her memories. But as time wears on, some of her memories resurface, and she can't help but feel both drawn to and repulsed by the man holding her captive. And he is there to unearth whatever secrets or memories he can from her, at whatever the cost. I knew going into this book that it had started its life as a Harry Potter fanfiction, and there were definitely times I saw some elements of that shining through, but overall this was a very interesting and well thought out book, and I ultimately really loved it. I gave it a 5 out of 5 rating. Let's now flip over to the visual tracker spread and add in the covers for December's books. It's still hard to believe that these are the last covers I'll be adding to these spreads. What an incredible year of reading it's been. Flipping the page, let's pick the December book of the month. This month I had to pick between When Darkness Falls, Old Yeller, and Alchemized. Much like the previous month, I took When Darkness Falls out of the running since I'd read it several times prior, and when it came down to it, I ended up picking Alchemized as my favorite for the month. I think it's so interesting to see all these books together now that the year is through. Next are my long-awaited picks for the best of the year spread. After thinking long and hard about this spread, I decided to include not only 5-star books for these picks, but rather the books that stayed with me the most throughout the year. The books that I kept thinking about and wanting to reread, or the ones that just blew me away, regardless of their rating. I've already established that The Spell Shop belonged on this list, so in no particular order, here are the other novels I've chosen for the best of the year spread. The Revenant, None of This Is True, Bride, The Lies of Loch Lamora, The Daughter's War, Project Hail Mary, Alchemized, The Queen, The Midnight Library, Clytemnestra, and finally, Atonement. Although quite a few of these books were also my Book of the Month picks, there were several that made it onto the list that were also strong contenders that didn't get selected as a monthly pick, like Clytemnestra and The Midnight Library. All of these books really spoke to me deeply while reading them, and are stories I still think about after all of this time. I strongly believe that a good story is one that makes you think, and one that sticks with you long after you've finished it. For me, these 12 books embody that feeling fully. Are any of these books your favorites as well? Next, let's fill in all of the info on the yearly stats spread with December's information. In books read per month, I'll fill it in with 7 total books read. For reading types, I read 5 physical books and 2 audiobooks. In books by the page, I read 4 in the 1 to 200 plus pages column, 1 in the 300s, 1 in the 600s, and lastly, 1 in the 1,000 plus pages column. That's the new record for the longest book of the year. For genres read this month, I'll add 2 in fantasy, 1 in classics, and 4 in fiction. Lastly, for when was it written, I'll add 1 in the 1950s or earlier column, 1 in the 1970s column, 2 in the 2005 column, 1 in 2010, and lastly, 2 in the 2020s column. And that's it for our yearly stats. I ended the year off with a grand total of 79 books read. That's a whopping 29,961 pages. With audiobooks being my most used reading type, my average book length being 379 pages, my most read genre being fantasy, and that the majority of the books I read were published within the last 5 years. Moving on, let's flip over to our monthly overview for December and add in all the details and info for the month. I'll add 7 in total books read, and a grand total of 2,757 pages read. Not bad for the last books of the year. Next up is the best and worst reads of the month. We've already established that Alchemized was the best book of the month, and if you'll remember my ratings from earlier during the book log, the worst book of the month goes to Blue Christmas. As always, I'll add in all of the books to the monthly book log with the date I finished the book, its page count, and its rating. Finally, I'll finish off this page by filling in my mini calendar up in the corner with the date I finished each book and the color that corresponds to its genre. And just like that, all of the monthly overviews for the year are done. I definitely learned what works for me and what doesn't on these pages, and I'll be mixing things up a bit more in my next journal, so stay tuned. Let's continue by turning to the TV shows and series watched page. In December, we watched the final season of Stranger Things on Netflix, as well as the first 3 seasons of Schitt's Creek. We enjoyed season 5 of Stranger Things and felt that the finale gave the closure to the series that was needed. I rated it an overall 4 out of 5. As fans of Schitt's Creek, we really enjoyed rewatching this hilarious series. I gave these 3 seasons a 5 out of 5 rating. And with that last entry, my December wrap-up is completed and my reading journal for 2025 is finished. What an incredible year it's been, and I'm so thankful to everyone who has watched my videos, left comments, or just enjoyed my content. I can't wait to show you what's in store for 2026. And now, please enjoy my final flip through for my 2025 reading journal. Thank you for taking the time to join me over these past months and for watching my videos. If you want to continue to see more content from me, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing to my channel. Happy reading, and see you in the next video. Bye!